Hi there, I'm Scott Lowe with Actual Tech Media, and thank you for joining us for this Discovery Series video. Right now, we're going to do a demo of the CloudDaddy platform, and Joe Merces, CEO of CloudDaddy, will be providing that demo. Now, before you start talking, one of the things we want to make sure that you're aware of in the audience is that you're going to see a certificate error. And the reason we see the certificate error is we are pre-GA. This is not a fully launched product at this point that we're doing this shoot. So you'll see the certificate error. You will not see that when you are buying this product live and using it in production. So Joe, go ahead and take it away.
That's absolutely right. So let's move on down the line. And as you can see, we've separated things out for the user in terms of making things very, very easy for the user to see. And this most likely is an administrator of a data center or with AWS responsibilities in terms of maintaining backup and disaster recovery. And if you look at the interface, you've got an infrastructure tab on the left, you've got a dashboard on the right, stemming from the backup tab on the left, and it provides you with an interesting dashboard that provides you all sorts of statistics in regards to your backups and jobs that you've run across AWS. You've got a restore tab, you've got an instance firewall tab, WAF, IPS, or intrusion protection. You have your user administration, and then you have settings. Okay, so we've broken things out to make them very, very easy for the customer. So let's just take a look since we're on the last area of settings. As you can see, you can synchronize your resources and rotate your AMIs on a specific period of time, notifications, and here's another aspect that we build from. We do not recreate the wheel. So in terms of messaging, alerts and notifications to administrators or anybody else that you want to send any alert to, guess what? We use Amazon's SNS service, So we're not using our own. There is nothing proprietary here. What we're using are the building blocks that Amazon has provided us. And you can have your tenants, and you can have as many tenants as you want. Again, the product is multi-tenancy designed, and we're looking at MSPs potentially and hopefully using the solution, and you can literally have as many customers as you wish, basically managed from within this solution.
And does that help with the MSP side of the house as well?
Yes, and the product is fully oriented towards the MSP type of customer. So if you've got 100 customers, doesn't matter. You can set them all up within our solution. You can manage the infrastructure, the backups and disaster recovery, everything separately from other customers. And then we've got some information here in regards to the actual version, and you can download logs, okay? If we go to user administration, okay, this is where you get into your AWS account settings. You can add AWS accounts. So for example, if you had an AWS account that actually sat in the UK, for example, or an area in the European Union, you can establish those accounts here. And this is where it enables you to go cross-account, okay? You can establish as many tenants as you want here. If I wanted to add a tenant, I'd simply add it. And all of the infrastructure that I'd add beneath that tenant basically flows down through that tenant. It doesn't cross over to any other tenant. You can add users who are able to use this application. And then now may be a good time where I jump up top instead and we take a look at our infrastructure, because we're going to cascade down through the primary 3 pillars that the solution and the company are founded on. So in terms of your infrastructure, usually when you're going to back something up, you need to know where the heck it is, right? And within Amazon Web Services, it's either an instance, or it's a volume, or it's an RDS database, or it's an Aurora cluster, or it's a Redshift cluster, all right? So you have everything, as you can see, basically subdivided on tabs within the solution. And if I wanted to, I could switch regions. I can have infrastructure anywhere in the world that Amazon Web Services supports. So as you can see, I have a lot of regions here that I can simply select, and I don't think I have instances in US West, which I don't, but if I did, they'd be there. Or if I replicated an instance there, it would exist there, okay? And as you can see here, I have an account, and I just have it, and this is just a demo, but if I had multiple accounts, you'd see them all listed here, and I'd be able to switch back and forth between region and account. But I can have separate data volumes again, and I can swing from any region I want and any account I want from within any of the infrastructure base that I have, as you can see. So the dialogue remains the same in regards to the ability to be able to see any kind of region and any kind of account and what sits beneath it, okay? If I go to the backup tab, I get my jobs, and it provides me a wonderful dashboard in regards to what's happening from a backup perspective. And you can see all the jobs that have succeeded, anything that's failed. We give you a little message in regards to what the actual problem was. Maybe there was something that couldn't be backed up, for example, or there was a machine problem itself that prevented something from backing up, or there was a warning. We provide that to you. Again, you can select the log events, and you can look at accounts. You can select the type of messages you wish to see. You can select the dates in regards to what you want to filter down in regards to the actual dashboard and what it's showing you.
So it allows you to get pretty granular.
It allows you to get granular, exactly. In terms of jobs, it shows you the jobs that you've been doing. And if I wanted to create a job, and we can create a job on the fly here, I can put in a job name. And you know, it's important to give things names so then you can recognize them when you look at them in the list. So maybe today, we'll just call it today's backup. And I'll leave that alone in terms of the tenant, and I'll pop in a description. I can select my objects. Now, if I wanted to select an instance, I can click Add, and here again, I can change my regions and my accounts to select any instance I want. So if I wanted this Windows instance to be backed up, for example, I can add that. Say if I wanted a volume also to be backed up, or I wanted that other instance to be backed up, I can select it. So let's say I want this Linux volume added to my backup, all right? If I had an RDS database that I wanted added, or an Aurora cluster or a Redshift cluster, I'd be able to add whatever I wanted to that job. We also support tags, allowing you to be easily able to see and note what backup job versus another backup job is actually held within the display. So I can put in, I'll just put in your name, Scott, and I'll put in a value of Scott too. So easy to remember that this was done with you, all right?
Yeah, I recognize that name.
And then I move down the schedule within the menu. I can run this job immediately. I can delay it, all right, for a specific time or a specific day and time. I can set up a recurrent job, create new. I can give it a schedule name. I can set it up to run periodically every 2 hours, or maybe I want it to run every 2 minutes, or maybe I want it to run every single minute. If you really want to do something like that, you can do it. You can also get down to daily, monthly, every day. The granularity established within the scheduling mechanism is just whatever your heart desires. But we can run this immediately. And now we get into replication. Say I wanted to replicate. I can enable replication here. I can tell it to replicate every 3 backups, for example. So this thing's going to go through and, all right, if I set it up on a schedule, every 3rd backup, it would replicate, okay?
So backup's going to come from the same location, but a replication is going to move it to a different instance somewhere.
A replication is going to literally replicate. It's creating an exact copy of whatever you have in a different region.
Right, that's what I was getting at. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
And you can do this to multiple regions.
Are backups kept in the same home region to start? And
Yes.
then and you're still able to quarantine those off based on the anomaly engine that you have in place?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
That's basically the US patent pending that we have in play. But I can select my replicated region. Say I wanted it in, instead of there, let's go with European Union West, Region 3.
And I can do it to multiple other regions. How many?
That's
Is there a
right.
limit on the number of regions?
Nope. You can replicate anything you want to all of the regions at your disposal.
And I can cross-account replicate it to another account.
Yeah, and you can cross-account replicate it to a different account. So say I wanted to put it in here, I'll come down and say US West 2 and let it rip. I can do that. And it will replicate those objects wherever you've designated. So talk about the power in terms of disaster recovery in comparison to what was available to enterprises just 7 years ago before AWS.
They would have to build out all these regions.
Exactly. You either had data centers in those regions, and 7 years ago you didn't really have the dominance of virtual machines, okay, in this virtual setting from a cloud or internet perspective. And now you have the ability to be able to basically create layers of disaster recovery and backup and replication across the world, which is absolutely amazing. And this is one of the benefits that I talk to customers about who haven't migrated to the cloud, because you can't duplicate this for your enterprise without moving to a cloud service provider like Amazon Web Services. You only get this through having a hybrid cloud or a pure cloud-enabled environment.
It'd be stupid expensive.
Yeah, imagine creating data centers in whatever location that you needed to replicate or back up and provide disaster recovery from. Most enterprises are familiar with doing backup, to media and then taking that media off-site somewhere, and it's usually off-site to one of their locations or
Right.
off-site to a trusted third-party source that you're paying for. In this case, you can see how easy it is to do. I can just press the button, let it rip, and the infrastructure is going to replicate and back up wherever I ask it to do so. Okay, so we'll pop that off because we don't want to replicate here. Other settings, restore points to keep. I can set up a retention policy, okay? And the retention policy basically establishes how many of these things do you want to keep. So if I did 10 backups here, when I'd hit the next one, it's basically going to set you up with, a FIFO type of a scenario. The first one in is going to be the first one out when you hit that retention point, right? Or you can remove backups older than 14 days. You don't want to keep these things going within Amazon Web Services because you're paying for them,
Right.
ultimately. So we try to help you maintain your costs. So you can set this up. It's set up by default to keep these backups for a certain point of time and then get rid of them, right? Because you're adding to the mix. And we enable you to be application consistent. So if you're dealing with Windows instances, all right, and you're dealing with something like a SQL Server type of a scenario,
Right.
you can rest assured that the snapshot is going to be in totality and holistic in terms of what's being backed up.
So it'll actually work.
Yeah,
There's nothing
it'll
worse
work.
than trying to restore a backup and finding out that it's no good.
Exactly. And then you have a summary of what's going on. I can go back and review anything that I've set here, and then I can just click next or finish. And when I click finish, it gets added to the queue and it runs. So we'll see it pop up here in just a second. And there it is, it's running. And if you remember, I selected several objects. It wasn't just a single object. It wasn't just a single instance, but it also included a volume, for example. So that'll run. And while that's running, and I didn't go into the backup tab, but if I show you the backup tab, you can see what's happening here. All right. So today's backup, which I called, has a start time and it is running. It doesn't have an end time, but you can see the status of running, and it tells you that it's got 2 objects. I could have set it up as permanent too, meaning regardless of what I set up from a retention policy, it's going to keep that backup forever, indefinitely, until you get rid of it, all right?
Okay.
So if I go to my Restore tab, I can create a restore job, and I can select any object that I've done before. So say, for example, one more time, and I don't remember what was in there, but we can go and take a look. Okay, I can restore in totality to my original location, or I can select the new location, and here we get into our disaster recovery ability. You can restore to a different region, and by the way, the region is, again, holistic with what's available to the end enterprise from an Amazon Web Services perspective. Here we have all of the AWS regions available to us. Or if I wanted to restore to a different account, and I had multiple accounts, I'd be able to restore to a totally different account within the AWS ecosystem. All right, I can select my objects. So within this job, we had 2 instances. I can select my Windows instance, and I can select whatever else was here. So, oh, look at that. Oh, and we just noticed that we're being notified that our backup that we did earlier has finished. All right, but if I wanted to just restore that Windows instance, or if I wanted to also restore the RDS database, I'd be able to do this. Okay, provides me with a summary. I can go ahead and click Finish, and it'll go and do that restoration. All right.
Very nice.
If I wanted to get down a file level restore, I can get down a file level restore as well.
What about application objects? SharePoint, Excel, SharePoint Exchange, SQL Server. Can you get to individual objects in those yet?
Yeah, yeah. You can restore whatever you want in there. If we get down to the instance firewall, all right, so I've got instances out there that are running within AWS, and I want to protect them even more than what they currently are protected. Again, we're adding additional layers of cybersecurity countermeasure in terms of what you may already have in place, all right? I can go and select anything I wish, and I can add rules that are going to limit the traffic in and out or in a specific direction. So I can call this Scott1, and I can limit the direction of the traffic, inbound or outbound. But say I wanted to block a remote IP even, I can pop in an IP address, say I know somebody who's basically coming at me with a DDoS type of attack. I can basically remove that IP and prevent it from accessing this specific machine. I can remote VM and prevent it from happening. I can select my target. I can use an existing or new security group, select the security group. I have a default here, so I didn't create any. And I can select templates that I want to apply. So say I wanted to apply TCP or UDP traffic on port 5190. In a prior video, you heard me mentioning about a specific ransomware that's using a specific port, and everybody knows it.
Right.
You'd be able to do that. If you notice, we've got a lot of templates here, so you can select a multitude of templates where specific traffic is either blocked on the inbound side or blocked in totality, okay? So perfect example of the power within creating, rules that are applied to specific instances and in essence, instance firewalling. I can create security groups, and the security groups that are applied from a firewall perspective. Let's go in here and take a quick look. I can name it, pop in a description, and this interfaces with Amazon Web Services side of the equation for WAF as well. So the security is using what's provided by AWS as a building block or a foundation point. If we move on and we look at the web application firewall intrusion protection, again, I can create access control lists, and I can create rules, or I can add rules that I've already created that impact those access control lists. And again, you can allow, block, count, you can create metric names, and basically get down to some very low-level function in terms of limiting the data path coming in and out through an access control list and the rules that are established within there. And, once again, you've got rules and you've also got the conditions. So you can set up conditions or, in essence, filters. So you can prevent cross-site scripting, IP addresses, you can provide constraints, SQL injection, string matching, some pretty detailed stuff from a security perspective. And if we go back to backup, you'll notice that today's backup and today's restore was completed successfully.
Very cool.
Okay? And that sums up the CloudDaddy solution in a quick view.
We'll have to do a more thorough demo once you are fully GA as well.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, the U.S. patent pending has been applied, and at this stage of the game, we are in full development of our future Release 2.0 product. As you can see, it's not here in terms of the machine learning and AI side of the equation, but that will be part of Release 2.0.
Joe, thank you so much for this demonstration and for the discussion about what CloudDaddy is bringing to market.
My pleasure. Thank you.